Okay, here is some helps on some of these. I think some of you have already worked some of these, but this one right here, you could factor out a 3. So like this, take out a 3. When you factor out a 3, you should have an identity right there. And then sub in that identity. And then simplify. I'm just looking at this one. This is an identity. So you should be able to sub that in and simplify. It's always good to get things in terms of sine and cosine. Just looking at this next one, this one has a sine of u and a sine of u, so you could factor out a sine of u, and you'll be left with cosine squared of u plus sine squared of u, and that's an identity over sine squared of u. So you should be able to sub in an identity right here. This next one right here, you can FOIL this together, which gives you a sine squared of beta. And your middle term actually cancels out because that's a plus and that's a minus. Plus secant squared of beta. If you look on your identity sheet, this is an identity. Hang on, that sign should be a negative right here. That should be a negative, right? Because you're going to get a negative right there. That's an identity on your sheet, but it's backwards. On your sheet, it is secant squared of beta minus tangent squared of beta. So you can take out a negative, and then it will look like it's supposed to. And then you can sub in the identity for that now off of your sheet. Okay, and then hopefully some stuff will cancel. On the next page, just looking, and there's a lot of different ways to do these. I don't want you to feel like you're trapped, but you could put this part together and simplify that, make that sine over cosine, and put that over 1 and flip and multiply, simplify that, and then you'll have secant minus cosine of A. Once you simplify that, then you could distribute it in, and I think you're going to find some stuff cancels, and you'll get to an identity. If you have any other questions, post it on the stream, and I will give you some further help. On the next one, I would probably change everything in terms of sine and cosine and go from there. So like to get started, you would do 1 over sine of theta times cosine of theta over 1, and then I would change this one to sine over cosine. And probably need to get a common denominator after that. And I'd just go from there and simplify. You need to simplify this to a single fraction, and then this to a single fraction, and then you can flip and multiply. Just scrolling along. You could get everything in terms of sine and cosine here. You cannot cancel like that. That's killing a cat. You can't do that. Okay, because there's a plus sign between it. But maybe get everything in terms of sine and cosine. And then like simplify this fraction. Simplify this fraction. And then get a common denominator. Everything should pan out. This one right here. You can get that in terms of sine and cosine. what I mean is you can do cosine of x over sine of x minus 1 over sine squared of x times sine of x over cosine. Now you can cancel, because this part's multiplying, you can cancel multiplying, you just can't cancel adding and subtracting. So simplify that and find a common denominator. I'm looking at the next one, it needs a common denominator. This side, you would want to multiply it by 1 plus sine of y over 1 plus sine of y. And this side, you would want to multiply it by cosine of y over cosine of y. And then simplify it down. This one is probably the hardest one. When I try to plug in sine and cosine for everything, nothing really happened. And so then I had to erase and backtrack. But if you will sub in 1 over secant here, and then get that under a single fraction, so you're going to have cosine of beta times tangent squared of beta all over 1 plus secant of beta, and then get a common denominator, so that would be secant of beta over secant of beta. This one's complicated, so I'm going to go back to red. So cosine of beta times tangent squared of beta, and then you have secant of beta over